Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie. I'm the founder of one of the largest nonprofit design communities in the Philippines. And today we're talking to an independent comics creator whose work was made into a short film. He's Makoy. Makoy, can you tell us briefly about yourself? And then in a while, let's look at the trailer of your short, what has been made into a short film years ago. No?
Hey,
Tell
Sir
us a
Eddie.
bit about yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Eddie. Glad to be here. I I make comics. I make comics. I sell them locally at events and wherever business is willing to sell independently made comics. And yeah, like you said, one of my comics, Ang Maskot, was adapted into a short film that was played at local and international film festivals. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So let's take a look at how your trailer comics looks like.
The story is about a disgruntled fast food worker always gets stuck doing the birthday parties, getting stuck in the suit, and then he actually gets stuck in the suit, and he has these adventures while wearing the suit out in public. So yeah, actually, interesting story. I just got lucky with that because the directors, Chris Costello and Mick Vergara, they were running a local independent comic shop at the time in Cubao Expo named
Mm-mm.
Sputnik, and they ran that coffee shop, but they also were into film and they wanted to make their own independent film. And just by pure luck, they saw my comic in their shop and they said, "This is a good story. We can make it into a film. Let's ask the creator if he's interested." And they asked me, and yeah, that's how that movie got made.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. Even it's funny because even your does the actual movie? I haven't seen the movie yet, but does the movie also have bloopers? Sure, comics has bloopers
Ah,
at the end.
I can't remember if they put bloopers at the end, but the whole film is on YouTube. You can just search
Yeah.
for Ang Mascot on YouTube and watch it.
Yes. Nice. So it's funny because I was reading at the end there are bloopers in your
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of your comics. I got
I had extra
okay.
pages left over. It was actually the first comic that I made, and I didn't know about you needed a page count that was divisible by eight to max extra pages, and I added bloopers to fill the space.
What I particularly like, so at the very start of your comics there's a lot of text, but the
Mhm.
ones that had the strongest impact on me when I was reading were the ones that didn't have the text.
Ah, thank
You
you.
were just
Yeah,
doing the illustrations, and it was really wow. It conveyed a certain sense of emotion. So
yeah. That is what you guys do. You lead the user's eye along in a logical and intuitive way along with whatever UI or design that you guys are making. We try to do that. We lead the reader's eye along the panels in the page to tell our story, and you guys deal with like emotions, how the user feels when they're using the product or whatever, and we deal with the reader's emotions with how they feel reading our stories. So there's a lot of similarity between what we do, and
it's nice
thank you,
that
you noticed that.
it's nice that you mentioned the fact that leading users' eyes, and you
Mhm.
are also incorporating that in your elements. So that's one of the basic lessons that I teach in
Mhm.
when I teach visual design. How are you leading the user's eyes? No, in here you did it, and you really thought about that, pala.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we use action. We use how big the characters are. Same as you guys. Things that move, things that are brightly colored, things that are big and attract the eye. And then there's like how a character stands. If they're a little tilted, that means something. If they're like camera shots, whether it's a close up or there's a lot of tricks that cartoonists and comics people use to lead readers' eyes.
Yeah. So you already started telling the story of how you came about with this comic, no?
Mm-hmm,
So you said that you were in a coffee shop. And this was from an independent. Can you tell us again how did it start?
This how I got into Filipino comics was back in college when we were in college at the same
Mm.
time. And are you familiar with the cartoon on Netflix, Trece, the
Yeah, yeah,
totally
yeah.
made comic?
That's it, of course.
Well, that guy's creator, Bajetan, he went to our school. He was working on a different comic at the time, and he was already doing independent comics in the 90s. And he went to our
Mm.
school and gave a talk, showed us his work, and that's when I discovered that I didn't know that you could just make your own comic in your own time. They would photocopy a few pages of the comic together, staple it in the middle, fold it, make a pamphlet.
Right,
That's a
right.
comic. And then they'd sell it at local comic shops like Phil Bars, Comic Odyssey, and that's it. That's how they built their following. And then he brought that comic to our school, and he was showing it around. And I thought, hey, this is something that I was interested in drawing and writing already at the time. I thought,
Mm.
hey, this might be something I could do. And then years later, when I was already working after college, and I was really unhappy with my job, and I just made up this, and I was thinking about this story of someone who's also unhappy in his job, and yeah, that's it. I joined eventually after when there were enough independent comics to build a readership, and there was this group of artists. I don't know if you remember Comic Culture Crash, the manga comics back in the
Yeah,
90s.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, some of those guys got together and they made the comics convention. They started Comic Con, which is the
Mm.
first Filipino comics convention,
Mm.
and they were looking around for people to sell their comics there. And I tried my luck. I joined, and yeah, it was well received, and yeah, lang after
Nice,
that.
nice, nice. And
It's
how
been
has it been like?
sorry, I was just gonna say that it's been really exciting to watch because back in the 90s, comics were what Filipinos thought was considered comics was going away. The
Mm, yeah,
stuff that you'd see on the street, like titles like Hiwaga,
yeah.
Darna,
Funny
the
comics, yeah.
funny comics, yeah, those things were starting to go away. They were getting harder to find. Uh, and to fill the gap, there was this just group of people, hobbyists really, who didn't plan to make money, just do what they love, make comics and sell them. And then from those people like Jerry Alangilan, Carlo Vergara, Arnold Are, you it just kept building, and now we have what we used to call independent comics back then. That's the mainstream now. And when you talk about, like I said, Budgetan and all those other names, they represent Filipino comics now, and yeah, it's just been really exciting.
Yeah, you already started talking about this now. How it's been like as an illustrator, as a comics creator. But how do you actually make money from this? Is this a valid career path or not? How do you supplement it?
I wish it was. People there just before the pandemic, there was a point when there were enough comics events to have that you could go to a comic event every month.
Mhm.
So if you're a comics creator, you want to sell your comics, you there was somewhere to sell it at least every month, and you could support yourself. But really, there's only very few artists who could do that. Just the top of the top, the cream of the crop, to make enough
Mhm.
money. People like Paul Medina, Manix
Mhm.
Abrera, those kinds of names. Other people like me, we need to do other stuff to survive. Mostly, it's probably illustration adjacent, also freelancing on the internet, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Unless you want to get into superhero comics, Marvel, working for Marvel and DC, and some of their top artists right now working right now are Filipino. People like
Yeah.
Lenny Liu, Carlo Pagulayan, Will Sportacio. That's the thing. You can go independent, you can go Marvel DC, but again, it's like getting into the NBA. Not everyone is that good.
Can you tell me more about that? What has been for you personally? You've seen as successes and challenges of a comics creator like you.
Number one challenge is marketing. Even now, I've been doing this for more than 10 years. People still you still see people going to a comics convention and then walking around saying, ay, may comics pa pala? Or being surprised that there's a local comics industry aside from the stuff that we hear from Marvel, DC, or crossover successes. So it's marketing, it's getting, critical recognition is a little better. Comics have been winning like National Book Awards pretty much every year now. Yeah, but yeah, it's the industry part, it's the business part. It's being people. There's an there's a chicken egg situation where You want enough content, you need enough content to build the industry, but then there's no industry, so people have a hard time making the content because they can't live off of it. It's We're in an awkward place right now, and I think the main problem is the business side. There's just not many people willing to invest in, and then there's the whole publishing thing getting weaker and weaker. Newspapers are going online, magazines are going online. It's harder to sell physical books and physical comics, and of
But
course AI.
yeah, let's talk more about that in a bit. But how about what do you consider as your successes? This is a success, right? The comics, this mascot, you would consider this a success.
Oh, it's a
What other successes have you seen for comics creators?
Okay. Aside from when there's people like Budget who are able to find people, the secret weapon of Budget was they were able to find a producer, someone who was willing to take their work, show it to big companies in other countries, and say, "Hey, look at this Filipino work. It's good enough for you guys to spend money on, and there's a big enough audience for people who want to see this. Check it out. You might want to adapt it." Not everyone in the Philippines has that, unfortunately. We have people like, excuse me, Paulo Heras, who runs Comiket. He's been trying to take people's comics and show them to foreign publishers and foreign companies, but it's slow work. Ayon, marketing, recognition. Let's see, successes. Ayon, Trece. There's also, oh no, I forgot the name. There's at least one comic book creator whose comic book was picked up by Disney Books.
Mm.
So yeah, there's comics people who go to the US and find publishers there. The thing about us is we're really good at this stuff. People know that Filipino illustrators, at least people have known about Filipino comics illustrators being really good since the 70s. We've had people
Yeah.
going working for Marvel all that time. But we're not, unfortunately, we're not known as a country of we're known as a country of comics workers that you can people pay for, but we're not
Mhm.
known as a country of comics creators yet.
Mm.
So there's some small successes coming up every so often, but we're not there yet, unfortunately, and hopefully we will be someday.
Have you mentioned with about technology coming up? Have you and freelancing? Are you also doing or have you tried digital illustrations
Oh
for
yeah,
your?
I work digitally. Ang Mascot, I made that because I made that in Adobe Illustrator. That's all
Ah,
vector. That's 100% vector. Because
vector, nice.
because I'm self-taught. I didn't go to art school or anything,
Yeah,
and I was already freelancing at the time, and I knew how to use Illustrator. So I just did what I
use
knew, and
Illustrator
I
for
used
yeah.
Illustrator.
Oh,
So
Illustrator is nice. It's a de facto for really for a
yeah,
lot of creative visual work. So now let's go to the big challenge. We were talking about challenges. The big thing that's been coming around in the past year that is really I know a lot of creatives are complaining about and a
mhm.
lot of the issues about. And when we met in one of the comic, you said it shall not be. It is the word that should not be named,
Yeah,
which
because
is
we were
basically
surrounded by other people, other comics people at the time, so we didn't
yeah.
wanna.
So it's AI, generative AI, and how it's affecting you. Can you tell me your thoughts about that in particular and how it's affecting you, how that technology is affecting the industry as well?
I imagine just like you guys, people working in comics just hate it. They've just not been.
They
Oh,
hate it.
yeah, they
Oh,
hate it. They don't. They feel like they're very aware of the issues with it's a threat to us, and and how the people who make the AI steal other people's work
mhm,
without compensation, without permission.
mhm.
But then again, personally, I've never read a good. I've seen some AI comics, and they're not very good yet.
Yeah.
Although, but we do hear because we have art and we also have story, and I also hear about people winning like writing contests using AI.
Mhm,
So at least on the writing side, we're almost at that point where we can be replaced, or
mhm.
at least people use it to make better stories. Personally, I really my problem with AI is it's impossible to predict how good it's going to get.
Mhm.
If it continues this way where the people developing AI aren't limiting themselves and aren't controlling themselves, It's hard to tell just where things will end up. Pero yun, why do we read though? Speaking as someone who tells stories and reads other people's work, when I read a story, it's not just because the story is there and I want to know about it. It's also because I care about who made the story.
Yeah.
I want to have a human connection with the creator. So when I read like a Neil Gaiman book, it's not just it's not just that I want to know the story itself. I want to hear his voice and build that relationship with him. And that hopefully that's something that us in the comics community will never lose. And that's something that we have that an AI will never be able to replace. Or maybe the children of the future are perfectly okay with building these relationships with robots instead of with people. I don't know. I can't predict the future. Maybe someday we'll be all right with that. But someone who was there at the birth of this kind of generative AI, it's kind of it's more of a con than a pro.
Yeah, it at the moment it still feels it's like plastic. It's not the real thing. You know,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
plastic
yeah,
hands, right?
yeah.
It's still that there's still something missing to it. And I liked how you said the human connection.
Hmm.
That's what, and that's the danger potentially. You're missing the human connection if
Hmm.
you're relying
Hmm.
now too much on the technology side of things. No?
As
It's
of now, at least, yun nga, if it gets complex enough for it to be able to pass the Turing test,
yeah.
who's going to be able to tell?
Yeah. But you, given the changes, and it looks like it's not stopping, how are you adjusting now to how it's all is coming? And maybe you can give me an idea of how the industry itself is adjusting given this.
Really, the only thing we can do right now is talk about it, diba? Not support, demand that the people running the AI, making the AI do things in a better way, not accept the stuff that always point it out, talk about it, use what we have, our tools, talk about it, and demand things to be done in a better way.
Mhm.
What else can we
What
do?
would be
Diba?
interesting is you make a comic about how this is entirely affecting. Because I know
Mm,
a lot, I
pwede.
know a bunch of writers who are starting to write about this already,
Mm,
because it's affecting them. But I also
mhm.
know a bunch of other writers who are leveraging on, yes, it's affecting us now, but this is how we can take advantage of what's affecting us now. So
That'd be interesting. I hope people can do that. Parang it's like a judo move, like use the
correct,
strength of
correct.
the enemy against itself.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm seeing that in my area kasi I'm in writing communities right now.
Mhm.
And I'm into a bunch of AI communities because I'm trying to understand the impact as well. And unfortunately, particularly for marketing purposes, AI generally helps churn out a lot, but you don't stop there. So what I'm seeing that's happening now is you use it as a tool, but you still tweak it. So you still need designers. You still exactly what you're saying, the human element. Because what
Mhm.
it's churning out, it's not a finished product. It's creating a raw product
Yeah,
that you can
that needs to
now
be
shape
refined.
into the art that you want. It just made it shortcut a bit for you because my starting point kana. You have a starting point.
Mhm.
But now you're shaping it to something better. And I think I'm seeing more artists that are doing this because I've seen a couple of artists using Mid Journey. So there are two camps like entirely stop using it, don't use it, don't pay for it. And then there's a camp that hey, how am I going to adjust this? Okay, I'll use Mid Journey. I use it as a starting point,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I can still make money from this. Basically,
Mhm.
that's what I'm seeing right now. So it's just really going to be interesting. And you say start off with conversations, and this is actually a conversation. Start about talking
Yeah,
about it
yeah.
with you, with someone who's really being affected by it in the industry. Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts on this. I've got one more question here. Is what's your advice for now for people who also want say I want to be also I'm also an illustrator. I want to
Mhm. Mhm.
do comics. What's your advice for me now? Especially
Really, there's just no better way than just to do it. You can start if you're having doubts. You can start by going attending a comics convention, a
Mhm.
comics event. There's Comic Con and Comic-Con. There's several of them throughout the year in different places in the metro, and you can just go there and check things out. See, for me, one of the really good things that I noticed when I was starting out joining comics conventions was seeing I was this feeling of hey, I know I can do this too. these guys aren't that good because you feel you have this image of I, who am I? I'm no one. I'm just starting out. My work might not be up to par with what's out there. But then you see that there's such a breadth of level of talent in these events, from really professional looking stuff to people who just obviously just doing it for love. And there's a place for everyone. There's if you can, almost everyone can find a reader, no matter how bad you think your stuff is. There might be someone out there who likes it. So really the best way to start is just to start doing it. Just do it, make
Yeah.
your comic. There's it's so easy to find tutorials these days on YouTube and other places online. Just learn how to do it, and then try it out. If people don't respond, then maybe you might need to do something else or try a different approach. But if you can find that readership, if you can find that feedback, human connection, great. It's great. There's no feeling like it.
Our recurring theme is human connection. I love it. Yeah. So how? Thanks, McCoy. So how can people read more of your work, get in touch with you, or yeah? Do you have an Instagram or a platform to share?
I'm just on Facebook right now. You can search for Comics ni Makoy on Facebook.
Excellent.
I don't use my Twitter account much these days thanks to Elon's tomfoolery.
Thank you, McCoy. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thanks,
sharing your
Arely.
thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.